Hello there, everybody. This is Alex from Hardcoin Guides, being my guide for Dante's Inferno on Infernal difficulty. Today we are doing part 9, entitled Violence. So we have this one, then Fraud, and then Treachery straight after. So only these last 3. Fraud's going to be a bit on the long side. This one seems to be at least under about 30 minutes. I think actually both are about 30. Just feels like the other one's long just because of how many different challenges you have to do. But this one was okay. Nothing too spectacular. I wouldn't say that. There's a lot of interesting stuff that kind of happens in this one, mainly because you have to deal with, new types of enemies and stuff. And I'm trying to think of some of the ones that we find now. Of course, we're gonna have to fight the winged guardians, which I think are, what are they called again? Mongoli. I don't remember what it was called. It starts with an M or something like that, unless I'm thinking of the other one. Because in the next one, in Fraud, there's going to be one that actually is a smoked one that has fire on him, and I think that's a different type. So I think for these ones, we'll just call them winged archdemons or something. I don't know. Something along those lines, maybe, possibly. Who knows? And let me think here. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this little screen here, so just ignore that. That's pretty much just kind of nothing at this point. And we're going to be basically just kind of double backing and just continuously going back and forth through this menu because I'm trying to figure out what the heck I'm trying to do. And then I eventually found, I think at this point, that I'm like, oh, okay, I can equip a 4th one. So, yeah, it took me all the way up to Violence to do that. Also, if I happen to sound different, it's because I got a bit angry earlier, so I'm kind of still on the side of trying to calm down. I really wanted to do this because I really want to get these things done with. And I say this for every guide. It's not because, I want to finish them because I hate the game or anything like that. It's more so just because I kind of want to move on to other things. And I kind of enjoy... I shouldn't say I keep saying that all the time, but I enjoy the feeling of finishing a project and then moving on to the next. And that in itself can be a problem because, sorry, my stomach is just going wild over here. That can be a problem in itself, mainly because, there's those times where I'll eventually get addicted to doing video stuff. Whether it be Hardcorean or whether it be, on Turd Monkey or just any of the two. But anyway, so before we get more into that, this is the Flying Guardian, the Winged Guardian, or Archdemon. And these guys are just a tad bit more annoying. They have a little bit more health. They have a couple of attacks that are very dangerous, like the one where they fly up in the air and they charge toward you. Which you can, dodge out of the way to left or right to kind of just, get away from it, of course. But just regardless, be careful of that specific attack because it does a lot of damage. And if you want to do what I'm doing, you just use cross attacks to kind of just keep them at bay, especially when they're flying. And you'll see, even though I don't think I end up actually doing it anyway. But there is up here another fight with more of the winged guardian enemies. And if you jump from one side to the other and you happen to use cross attacks while they're in midair, you can knock them down and get the free kill. Also, in terms of holy and unholy, I think I've gotten to the point now where I pretty much have everything I kind of want to get, I think. So, oh yeah, just ignore that cut. It was pretty bad on my end, honestly. I apologize for that. But yeah, if you want to, get holy or unholy for whatever you want to get, just go for it. Because I think at this point I've pretty much gotten everything I need. As long as you get all 3 redemption cells, you get all the relic slots activated, and then on top of that, you also get, let me think, Divine Armor level 3. Then for the most part, you're kind of good, because most of the other extra stuff that we end up getting is just, of course, health, mana upgrades, which you could just, wait until you get to a certain point where you really need them. Or what you could do is just essentially upgrade them, before. I wouldn't recommend upgrading beforehand, before the final boss, but at least have one, maybe both, one of each, for the upgrades, like, you know, the final boss, just in case. Just in case. I don't think I end up doing that, but I would suggest it. And then after that, that's pretty much it for upgrade-wise. By now, I would think most people probably have them. And again, most of the stuff that kind of ends up helping us big time is the relics. So this is definitely the point in time when I would suggest equipping the various specific relics that you really need, that you know for sure you need. And I would highly recommend Chiako's Bile by a big shot. If you happen to have missed it, that's unfortunate. If you missed Chiako's Bile, I would suggest just having at least 2 magic upgrades by the final boss. That way you can just kind of get through it with a bit more ease, or at least 1, because I think he does give you magic back, but I would still recommend at least having 1 upgrade still left for it. Because Chiako's Bile, being level 3 at the end is actually worth it. It's very helpful for, you know, what it is. It's pretty, what am I trying to say? I forgot I was talking about Chiako's Bile for a second. Sorry, I'm just so out of it right now. Like I said, I got very upset. I'm very angry at things. And it's just, you know, fuzzing out my head, I guess you could say. Basically, Chiako's Bile allows you to get mana regeneration, and that's extremely helpful, especially for the final boss. And the other 3 relics I recommend having is having the armor relic that you're going to get, I think, in this chapter. So in this circle, you're going to be getting the defense upgrade, one that you can have. Also, get the defense upgrades for your actual regular upgrades, too. Get all 3 or 2 or however many there were. Oh, yes, this room. If you happen to attack the trees, you can knock down all the fiends, that they're called. But I would suggest not worrying too much about them and just going for the pagan himself and then, you know, using divine armor. Because you got, like, a magic fountain in the same room, so you could potentially get most of your stuff back anyway. But yeah, this is definitely one of those fights that really takes into consideration the pagan's abilities, which I think is still pretty neat. Just knowing the fact that it's kind of making you have to think on your toes here to make you try to use different strategies to take down the enemies. And of course, I've just been using the same cheese strategy for like most of the game, which is a common thing I'm going to be doing. And I'm just gonna stay with using cross attacks on these guys. I'm not going to worry about knocking them down because, let's be fair, it's just as useful as it is. Like, you don't get enough time to really do anything with them. It's just one of those things where, like, if they're really annoying, then yeah. And if you happen to be using melee on the pagan, you can probably get him around near, like, the tree. So that way it can scream while you're attacking him at the same time. And then just knock them down to get them to stop attacking you. But anyway, back to the relics. So, Scythe and Cross attack I would also recommend having on. So the defense, Cross, Magic, and then Chiako's Bile, so the mana regeneration one. And then after that, I think the final upgrade I end up getting, I think, is the get health back for every Cross kill. And I don't end up getting the one for the mana one for the Scythe, just because it kind of ends up being pointless. So is the health one, to be honest, but I bought it because I had the money for it at the time. I had the souls. So I just was like, okay, I'll take it, I guess. Why not? And, yeah. Oh, yeah, we're going to meet, what's his name? Francesco? I can't remember his name. But this is the circle where we get to meet not only Dante's mom, who had, you know, unalived herself, but we also get to meet, I think, his buddy that helped him out through the Crusades. And this is a pretty good, perfect place for Dante, for the sake that he, you know, put himself through the Crusades and then killed, you know, potentially tons of people. Like, as you saw in the beginning of the game, like, you literally do kill quite a lot of people. So, and it actually has one of my personal favorite lines in the entire game, and I don't know why, but it's stuck with me for a bit now. And that's you know, murder in the name of God is you know, it's, I forget how it goes, but something like, murder is not in the name of God, murder is in the name of the murderer, or something like that. And I thought that's kind of an interesting take, because, I mean, maybe I'm kind of reading too far into it, but I think he's also trying to say at the same time, like, I know exactly, I know he's just being, you know, upfront with it there, but I think you can kind of interpret it in a different way and say, like, you know, it's the fault of your own not the world that, you know, does things to you. You have to do things yourself, which I guess that's something I need to start learning too, is I need to stop, you know, getting so angry all the time, but people just continue to piss me off, so it's kind of hard not to. And it might sound weird, but I am kind of prone to anger, and I really need to work on that, but it happens, man. It sucks. And I've tried for a while to get used to it, to get better. Funny enough, YouTube actually back then was a part of the reason I got mad, but then I came back, and maybe it is the same thing that's still making me mad. Maybe I'm actually stressing out over this stuff on these videos, you know, constantly back and forth and trying to do things, and I'm just, I don't know, maybe I am overstressed. I have no idea, man. But I have not a lot of advice for this section here. I mean, Divine Armor is going to help you get through most of it. And, of course, you know, whenever the tree thing is kind of falling down, that's a good sign to just take action and then just knock the thing away as fast as possible. And then, of course, I'm just going for free, easy kills with these guys because they're just annoying as shit. Like, I don't really want to have to deal with fighting them. Any other potential magic that could help here, I would just recommend just keeping magic on, just in general, for Divine Armor. Just, I wouldn't recommend wasting magic for other magic. Unless you absolutely are certain yourself, you know, like, oh, I'll be fine, that's okay. But for me personally, I usually just try to keep it for the Divine Armor, because even though I have Chaco's Bile on, and you can see it rise, as you can see right now, it is showing. I think it's actually at level 3. Even though I do have it on and equipped and all that, it's still one of those things where I'd rather just not waste the magic, just in case. So. But, I know I said earlier that I don't really kind of technically care if you go for holy or unholy at this point, because once we get to fraud, I'm probably gonna accidentally cut out a few things. So there might come a point when I accidentally cut out, you know, possible damned situations. I'm not sure, but it looks like at this point I'm going for holy, and I'm not even really sure if there is anything extra after what I've gotten, besides that extra small weird upgrade where you can get health from killing with cross attacks. I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to check it out when I get those upgrades again. But yeah, so at this point, you probably have just enough for most of what you need. As long as you've been balancing them out pretty well, then you should be okay. And if you haven't been balancing them out, then now's the perfect time to start working on that balancing. Because you're going to get plenty of damned left over, and this is pretty much just like the final stretch of, like, make sure you're getting everything you need to. Fraud is, both this and fraud are like the final stretches of, like, get damned as fast as possible. And treachery has, like, a few scattered in, so. I think it has one, actually. I think treachery only has one, because I think treachery itself, I think it's just the bridge and then the final boss, and that's about it, so. But that one's going to be a nightmare, guys. That one's going to be a nightmare for anybody and everybody. That, in my opinion, is genuinely the hardest part of the entire game. Is just that it's just so damn difficult to do that. So, yeah, basically, for these guys, I just, you know, use the cheese. I just stick with, like, cross attacks, the same old, same old. And, honestly, the tree thing that falls down and tries to make you, you know, take your own life here. The thing with that, though, is if you hit it and let it go back up, for the most part, it's really not going to bother you too much. It's not going to come into anything, any problem. Also, maybe I'm wrong, but I could have sworn that all this fire rain, this raining fire or brimstone, I think it's, whatever. I could have sworn that this thing does damage to you, even if you walk on the platforms, but you don't actually take damage from this. It's strange. Or at the very least, I don't think I'm seeing that I'm taking any damage, so I'm not sure if you ever even did anyway. This one right here, this one's just a free absolution that I do. I do the triangle one because at this point in time, I have all the Beatrice stones. But if you want to get the free orbs, go ahead. I was just getting to the point where I was getting tired of waiting on this stuff. But yeah, you see that right there? That's something I brought up in the last video for Heresy. I think was the last one we did. And if you use Divine Armor on the flamed guys, the ones that are consistently flamed, I think the ones that have smoke, black smoke, typically can also be destroyed or turned to stone or whatever with Divine Armor too, but I am not certain because I remember at one point I tried doing it, but it didn't work, so maybe I was wrong. But yeah, here's, for those that aren't aware, if you want to continue the combo, just press square if you get too high up. And once you start doing that, you pretty much just reset the combo while in air, and it's just ridiculous. You can make an infinite out of it. You don't have to have it be, you know, dropped whenever the game decides to just eventually drop it, so just something neat I kind of figured out. I didn't figure out the cheese on my own, but I figured out the square part of it on my own. So, gotta give me some credit, man. But this part is just a bit annoying, because of course you have to deal with the pagan with having, of course, you know, the cross attacks not being activated, which kind of takes away a lot of the stuff that I do. And I'm going to admit right now that if this game wanted to be harder, which, you know, I wouldn't mind having it just be a tad bit harder in some cases, but if it really wanted to go for more strategic thoughts and, you know, better types of enemies, if anything, we can throw this out for like a sequel possibility, if there ever will be, which I would love to see, but I don't think it'll probably happen, but it'd be nice. And what I want to say is, it would be kind of interesting if... Hang on. Oh, sorry. I'm reading comments. So, I would like to see more of, like, pagans, like, showing up a little bit earlier to stop you from using cross attacks. Maybe having an enemy that stops you from using scythe attacks. Now, I know that's kind of going in the territory of... what's it called? Oh, yeah, DMC. The DMC reboot. And I know that's a little too close to home with, like, the whole scythe and stuff, but this is one of those cases of, like, if you kill that specific enemy that's stopping you from doing certain things, then it stops protecting everybody else. So these are Crusaders, or Soldiers, I think. I think they're just called Soldiers, or Crusaders, or whatever the hell they are. These guys are relatively simple. There's another form of them called Captains, and the Captains are usually the ones with, like, fire on their shields, but these guys do not have it. And, of course, to stop the fire, you gotta use cross attacks. But for them, the shields are pretty much just nothing. They're just next to nothing. Just beat these guys up like you would anybody else. They're relatively easy to stun lock, and then once you break their shields, you can grab them if you wanted. You don't get anything out of grabbing them, but, you know, if you wanted to grab them to throw them around, you could. Okay. Sorry, again, like, I'm just reading comments. It's just on my other YouTube channel. Oops. Basically, I said something stupid in my Conkers video when I got destroyed for it in the comments, but I responded politely because, you know, that's what I do. I don't want to make anybody even more angry, but luckily I don't think they are. So you never know, you know, whenever you get comments that seem like they're hate comments, and then you kind of like respond to it within like a nice fashion, and then it comes back like, you know, maybe they actually weren't angry the whole time, or maybe they feel bad, who knows. But that's another thing too that I have a problem with, is whenever you do get hate comments, it's kind of hard to tell whether or not they're actual hate comments or not. Sometimes you can tell real easily, but a lot of the time it can be kind of hard, you know. But then when you see a nice comment, you know for a fact it's a nice comment, and those are always great. But I gotta build strength against them and just ignore them, you know. I gotta take advice, you know, from my fellow audience and just ignore them. But granted, I don't think this one was a hate comment. I think it was just one of those ones I thought it was going to be one, but then I don't think it is. So yeah, like I said, I just said something stupid in Conquer, and I deservingly got, you know, shit on for it, for being an idiot. Getting things wrong. But that's what's good about, you know, people tell me, like, hey, you know, just so you know, you're wrong. It's not like I hate being wrong. You know, I kind of want to be proven wrong sometimes too, just so that way people are on the same page, because I don't want anybody getting, you know, mixed up or messed up on things, especially for my guides too. Like, I really don't want to say something that would be wrong just for people to go out of the way to do it, and then just be, you know, upset that, you know, what their YouTuber guide that they watched was wrong. And that'd be unfortunate, because then you have to deal with, like, oh, now I gotta go look up, you know, someone else when you could have just, you know, watched me or whoever, and that sucks. But I try not to be. Granted, the best way for me to prove that something can happen is usually visually. Like, if I'm... Like, this is what's great about these visual guide parts of it, too. Besides just the commentary. Because like, commentary gives extra insight into certain things, too. But the visual aspect at least allows people to kind of just see it for themselves and see that I am doing something to beat the game in a way. And, you know, that's kind of quite helpful. So this is, I think his name is Francesco, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. So I might be wrong on that one too, actually. But this might sound kind of cheesy. I'm just going to be using cross attacks for a good portion of it. Mainly because of the fact that using your scythe, he typically has these retaliation attacks where he kind of throws back his shield that, you know, kind of hits you back. And then on top of that, there's just kind of the, not only, you know, the retaliation parry move that he does, but there's also, oh, riposte. I think that's what I'm trying to say, riposte. I think that's what the word is. But, you're just too close to him, and you'll get attacked, and he'll pretty much just block a lot of your attacks. And then on top of that, like, I think cross attacks might go through him, but that it could be wrong too. Now, also, whenever he throws his sword on the ground, you can actually pick it up and throw it back at him to do damage. Now, whether or not it actually hurts him is, I think, something that can only happen when he's got no shield on, I believe. But for the most part, it does damage to the shield, so that's something to kind of keep in mind if you're going for that. But yeah, this is a really, really long fight, and it's pretty obnoxious. It's a cool fight. It's a fun fight. It's just it's really damn long. But I would say try utilizing the swords more often, because for a bit here, I was kind of thinking to myself, like, I'm pretty sure that you can. And then I just kind of forgot about it, and I was like, oh, maybe you can't. But then I saw that instant R1, I'm like, okay, so that just proved me right there. But yeah, once his shield's destroyed, I would say just kind of go in on him a bit, because I don't think he can do much without it. Well, don't go too hard, you know, kind of like get a nice, good one combo on him, and then after that, just kind of back up a bit. And then when he's charging up another shield, that's when, you know, he's not going to take any more damage for a bit. So just let him kind of charge it up, and then get back, and then basically rinse, lather, repeat. Also be careful of these guys, these captains, because they can block the sword attacks as you just saw. And that's definitely not something you want to have happen. And something else to kind of keep in mind too, I want to go ahead and talk about real fast, is the lock-on system in this game is a little bit weird, where it seems to always lock on to the opponents that have the most priority. So typically, if you're trying to fight off these little captain guys, you pretty much have to kind of line them up within like the same vicinity of the boss here. So that's something to kind of keep mindful of too, is that these little shits are quite capable of getting in the way of things, and you can't really focus on them particularly because the game has a strange lock-on system. Unless I'm just playing it wrong, that's not the case. But still, just be careful of them. Whenever he's about to throw a sword, dodge, grab sword, and there you go. Pretty much the objective here is to just essentially break his shield as much as you possibly can. And then, again, don't get too close because you'll get grabbed like I did. But this is one of those times when I decided to say screw it. And then I bought a health and possibly mana upgrade. I think I bought both. That way I can be on the safe side and just, I don't know which one. I'm looking for an older one. That's what I'm doing. Let's see if there's any from like before that I didn't have. Looks like I just got the health upgrade at this point. I could have sworn I bought mana, but I don't know. I guess not. Maybe not until later. But this entire fight actually is strangely a lot easier than what it used to be, because like back then, you know, this fight was pretty damn hard. Same thing with Mark Antony, but when you get to a point when you start relying on cross attacks, everything becomes easier. But then again, some people don't like that, but for me personally, I don't mind it really, because this game just for the most part kind of just hates you a little bit. So it's one of those cases of you gotta have to hate the game back, and you kind of have to just fuck with its bullshit. And plus, you know, if it's in the game, I might as well use it. So, and it's not like I use cross attacks on him all the time. I'm just using Divine Armor to go through and just get some nice, you know, scythe shots in. So, yeah. But for the most part, like I said, this boss is pretty straightforward, because just cross attack, dodge, a sword throw, grab sword, throw it back, and if you want to, you can parry that attack he did right there, that swipe attack. And at this point, I think we also, yeah, because I think that's like a really old relic. But at this point in the game, you should have the relic for being able to block unblockables. And the cool thing about unblockable attacks is whenever you block them, they seem to have, or maybe that was a different relic I had on. I think I had a different relic for that. But there's another relic that adds the ability of increasing your parry time, so that way you can make, you know, your shots a lot easier. So that's something else you can kind of equip if you really wanted to. You can equip that along with the unblockables and then just completely decimate most of them. But to be fair, I'd rather just have the relics that I have on now instead of playing with them, especially on Inferno mode, you know, because I don't want to take any too hard of risks. Because Inferno mode is very, very dangerous when you're playing kind of risky, and it's definitely noted because you do take a lot of damage if you're not careful. But after he's all said and done, now you gotta deal with these guys by themselves, and then of course, you know, a pagan that eventually shows up. So just do what you normally do to a pagan at this point, and just waste him away. So they do seem to be kind of tanky and take quite a long time to kill, which is very annoying, but if you focus on them first and get rid of them, then the rest of the enemies should be relatively simple to go through. Because, to be fair, the soldiers are just kind of, they're basically fodder at this point. They don't really do much. You know, they can't really do much either, which is just interesting, I guess. But there you go, he's down. I'm trying to think of who else spawns here. We still have more time to go. This must be a really long arena fight then, because... Oh, I know who else spawns. It's more of those Guardian things. This is definitely one of those times where I'm kind of considering just cutting commentary like super early and letting the game play out, because I don't have much to explain at this point. Besides, you know, just keep at it and don't die here. I mean, if you do die here, I think you get a checkpoint. I think you are in a checkpoint, so it kind of makes it just a bit easier to go through. Thank God for checkpoints, though, because those things are nightmares in games without it. But other than that, I mean, for this section here, I'm mainly just be sticking with just doing cross attacks on these guys, because I don't want to get too close and have to deal with their shit. And plus, something I forgot to explain, but as you saw there, if you do scythe attacks, melee attacks, then they have this unfortunate thing where they end up blocking your attack. And that's fairly irritating, so just something to kind of keep in mind. But yeah, I think for the most of the rest of it, I think I can't speak. I think for the rest of this arena, particularly, it's just going to be like back and forth between different variants of enemy types, and I'm just going to be sticking with the same motif of just going for this guy, going for that guy. Also, whenever you throw an enemy toward the ground, it actually does a little bit of damage toward the enemies on the ground. That's something to keep in mind, too. Another thing to also keep in mind is with the winged guardian enemies here, making sure that they don't have wings on is very important, too. But then again, whenever they do have wings on, they tend to kind of go for that flying attack more often than not. So if you want to rely on that specific attack and you feel like you can dodge it or whatever better, then yeah, you know, you can keep them on their wings if you wanted. That move right there, I think, can be parried, so, or blocked. But that wind attack cannot, because that's just like the fiend attack. I should have just kept doing cross attacks, and I did have him in a position where he was getting stun locked and getting destroyed. So I probably should have used that to my advantage. Also, you can kill them without having to chop out their wings if you wanted to. But I always just typically go for the wings. Just because at this point in time, I'm just trying to get, you know, wholly upgraded to the next level. Not that I don't think it's important. It might be. I don't remember. I have to go find out. I feel like it's not, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll eventually get it, because we got more damned coming up in, like, fraud and what have you, which is next, of course. And I think I might just jump on the commentary for that one next and just take it a bit easier and what have you. But yeah, fraud's gonna be kind of a bit annoying, but we'll do it. We'll get you through it. So anyway, take care, everybody.